Welcome, humanists of Utah, and anyone else who may be watching and participating. First, repeat after me. 2020 has sucked. Just me? All right then, carry on. No, but really, 2020 has sucked for the most part. The winter solstice, the longest night of the year, is a fitting time to sit with the darkness and challenge it, to face it, name it, and honor it. What we face, what we name, what we will and can relationship with, we can master and integrate. Winter Solstice 2020 occurs on Monday, December 21st at 3:02 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So we recommend that you celebrate it Sunday night before you go to bed, unless you are a hardcore solstice celebrator. So for this darkest night solstice vigil, you will need a candle for each person, a lighter of some sort. I call this a Harry Potter wand. It's an arc lighter and just fantastic. Small pieces of paper, and a pen, and a surface that is safe for burning of some sort. This is a little incense holder, and your solstice worksheet. We will have a moment where we welcome and honor the darkness. I'll talk a bit about the history of the solstice traditions. We will do a ritual together and some readings, and there really should be music and feasting for the Winter Solstice Festival, so you can add that in as you feel is best. What is the history of solstice? Not surprisingly, modern Christmas celebrations are full of solstice symbolism. Christmas trees and holly, candles and bonfires, mistletoe, gingerbread and feasts all go back to ancient solstice traditions. Celebrating on December 25th was drawn directly from a Roman celebration. Most of you know this. On the 25th of December in 274 CE, the Roman Emperor Aurelian made it an official religion alongside the traditional Roman cults. This was the celebration of Sol Invictus, the unconquerable sun, and it celebrated the return of the light after the darkest night of the year. In paganism, the summer solstice around June 21st, the days begin to shorten, and the Holly King, the king of darkness, defeats the Oak King, the king of light, and reigns supreme in the dark times as the days get shorter. But in December, following the winter solstice, the days begin to lengthen, and the Oak King conquers the Holly King and reigns during the light times. Rituals around seasons likely go back as long as humans have lived in temperate climates. In antiquity, people had to be attuned to the flow of seasons and weather, light and darkness, rain and drought, cold and heat. These fluctuations were a matter of life and death. It would have felt like the winter would never end. And on the longest night of the year, this fear would have been at a high point. Functionally, religion is domesticated superstition, and virtually all cultures created rituals designed to cultivate life and ward off death. To ancient humans, the longest night of the year would have suggested that the powers of death and darkness were at their height. From the beginning, humans mastered this fear through meaning, ritual, and community. To use a well-known example, the great stones at Stonehenge were designed to mark the longest day and night of the year. The official Stonehenge site states, marking the passage of time was important to many ancient cultures. For the people of Stonehenge who are farmers, growing crops and tending herds of animals, knowing when the seasons were changing was important. Winter might have been a time of fear as the days grew shorter and colder. People must have longed for the return of light and warmth. Marking this yearly cycle may have been one of the reasons that the Neolithic people constructed Stonehenge, a monument aligned to the movements of the sun. The stones were shaped and set up to frame at least two important events in the annual solar cycle: the midwinter sunset at the winter solstice and the midsummer sunrise at the summer solstice. At the summer solstice, around the 21st of June, the sun rises behind the heelstone and its first rays shine into the heart of Stonehenge. Although the tallest trilithon at the monument is no longer standing, the sun would have set between the narrow gap of these uprights during the winter solstice. The winter solstice may have been even more important than the summer solstice for the people who built and used Stonehenge. Excavations at Durrington Walls suggest that people held huge feasts around this time of year. So that's a bit of the history. There are also humanist traditions of celebrating the solstice, and I recommend that you look at secularsolstice.com and other sites. We read on this website, "Once upon a time, winter was a mystery. The world grew dark and cold, life became fragile, crops withered, people died, and nobody knew what was happening or why. They desperately threw festivals in honor of sun gods with all too human motivations. It didn't work as well as they wanted, but slowly something amazing happened. We studied the sky, we studied the earth, we studied ourselves. We began a long journey toward truly understanding our universe, and we used that understanding to change our world for the better. Thousands of years later, winter isn't so scary. But the departure and return of the sun is still a powerful symbol. The work we've done to transform a season of darkness into a festival of light, it's something worth celebrating." So here's a personal confession. Ever since my divorce over 4 years ago, I've had a really hard time celebrating Christmas in the normal way that I did before my divorce. And so I have turned it in my family into a festival of light and darkness. And we do candle rituals every Christmas. So let's get into the ritual portion of our vigil and our celebration. Take your candle and light it. I love these woodwick candles. They're my very favorite. Look at the candle for a moment. Focus on the flame. Reflect on the power of light and darkness. Now, blow it out. Sit in the darkness for a moment. Honor it. Reflect on the hardest parts of the year. What has been the hardest part of your year? What has been your greatest loss? Speak these truths into the darkness. I think, for example, the hardest part of my year has been some misunderstandings and betrayals that I experienced that were very difficult for me. And I also felt a great sense of loss. Next, take a moment to think about loved ones who have died. You can light your candle now or later. Take a moment to speak the names of those who have died. It is something that is very common, much more this year than most years. I haven't had anyone in my family die of COVID or otherwise this year, but I do work in hospice, and so I have had dozens of people that I work with die this year, and I just started an on-call position, chaplain position at a hospital, and I walked the COVID units and saw people on ventilators and saw children not be able to visit their loved ones, only seeing them through the window. I heard the other chaplains talk about children in their 20s losing one or both of their parents who are only in their 50s. However, death and loss and challenge have impacted you this year, take a moment to honor it. This is a good practice in general that I would recommend, slowing down and taking that time to speak hard truth, things that we're struggling with, things that we're sad about. Next, take your pieces of paper and write one or two things you would like to leave behind this year. This is just setting up an intention. It doesn't need to be perfect. It is a reminder that will help this thing to have less influence in your life. So for example, two things that I would like to have less impact on me are distraction and feelings of unworthiness. I have so many things going through my mind, so many ideas, that I have a hard time following through with them. So hopefully I can do this safely. So again, this is like a little incense. And then this is a heavier issue, but I, as I think all of us do, struggle with feelings of unworthiness. And I have realized that these feelings of unworthiness have hindered me from investing in myself as much as I would like to. And so I am taking this moment vowing to not let distraction or honor the distraction and the unworthiness. Let it go. Let it have a lighter hold on me. Take whatever time you need to follow through on these rituals. Pause this video if needed. I'd like to conclude with a few readings. One is called Blessing When the World is Ending. by Jan Richardson. Look, the world is always ending somewhere. Somewhere the sun has come crashing down. Somewhere it has gone completely dark. Somewhere it has ended with the gun, the knife, the fist. Somewhere it has ended with the slammed door, the shattered hope. Somewhere it has ended with the utter quiet that follows the news from the phone, the television, the hospital room. Somewhere it has ended with a tenderness that will break your heart. But listen, this blessing means to be anything but morose. It has not come to cause despair. It is simply here. Because there is nothing a blessing is better suited for than an ending. Nothing that cries out more for a blessing than when a world is falling apart. This blessing will not fix you, will not mend you, will not give you false comfort. It will not talk to you about one door opening when another one closes. It will simply sit itself beside you among the shards and gently turn your face toward the direction from which the light will come, gathering itself about you as the world begins again. Second, I want to read a passage by David White from his book Consolations. Hiding. In this moment when the sun is hiding and life is hiding in the winter. Hiding is a way of staying alive. Hiding is a way of holding ourselves until we are ready to come into the light. Even hiding the truth from ourselves can be a way to come to what we need in our own necessary time. Hiding is one of the brilliant and virtuoso practices of almost every part of the natural world. The protective quiet of an icy northern landscape, the held bud of a future summer rose, the snow-bound internal pulse of the hibernating bear. Hiding is underestimated. We are hidden by life in our mother's womb until we grow and ready ourselves for our first appearance in the lighted world. To appear too early in that world is to find ourselves with the immediate necessity for outside intensive care. Hiding done properly is the internal faithful promise for a proper future emergence as embryos, as children, or even as emerging adults in retreat from the names that have caught us and imprisoned us, often in ways where we have been too easily seen and too easily named. Hiding is an act of freedom from the misunderstanding of others, especially in the enclosing world of oppressive secret government and private entities attempting to name us, to anticipate us, to leave us with no place to hide and grow in ways unmanaged by a creeping necessity for absolute naming, absolute tracking, and absolute control. Hiding is a bid for independence from others, from mistaken ideas we have about ourselves, from an oppressive and mistaken wish to keep us completely safe, completely ministered to, and therefore completely managed. Hiding is creative, necessary, and beautifully subversive of outside interference and control. Hiding leaves life to itself to become more of itself. Hiding is the radical independence necessary for our emergence into the light of a proper human future. As we conclude, remember that you have already made it through all of your hardest moments. You have already made it through all of your longest nights. Everything you have been through has combined to make you what you are in this moment. I wish you happy winter solstice, and with you I celebrate the return of the light and the closing of 2020.